Mayor Pro Tem, may we call the meeting to order?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'll call the meeting to order.
It's 5:02. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene at a regular meeting on July 1st, 2025 at 5 p.m. At the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Mayor Pro Tem, may I proceed with the roll call?
Yes, please.
Starting with Mayor John Cowan,
Present.
Commissioner Brian Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Linda Macias,
Present.
Commissioner Tino Villarreal, Commissioner Narenth Galowski,
Present.
Commissioner Gustavo De Leon,
Present.
and Commissioner Pedro Cardenas.
Present.
The invocation will be led by Ms. Rosalie Fernandez, and following, we will have the Pledge of Allegiance of the United States of America and the state of Texas.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So if you would. Thank you, sir. Okay, if everyone would please bow their heads. As we gather together, Father, we give you and only you thanks and praise. Brownsville, Cameron County, our home that we love, we ask as one body that you bless our city and county, all our officers, our new officers, all volunteers, all those that bring good to Cameron County, and all stumbling blocks, Lord, remove them so that Brownsville and Cameron County can bloom with beauty. We pray for the Resendez family who just buried their young daughter, that you bring healing to their hearts and bring closure to this horrific crime, as well as the Urbina family who just lost their child. We ask for the protection at Starbase, SpaceX, Elon Musk, and all who are involved in this project. Protect the waters of Boca Chica Beach, the Gulf, and all wildlife. We lift up President Trump, his administration, that divine intervention brings forth all right decisions. And Lord, most of all, we lift up our military and their families. Protect them from all harm's way. As citizens of Cameron County, Lord, continue to mold us into the individuals that you designed us to be. Excuse me. We pray for a better future for our children and grandchildren. As one body and as residents of Cameron County, fill us all with wisdom, knowledge, guidance for what is best. We pray that Brownsville and Cameron County will always have an overflow and abundance and never lack for anything. May each of us who have stepped up to serve in our community shine in what we are doing. Matthew 5:14, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. So as we continue to build with a pure heart, let our works shine and bring a smile to our Heavenly Father. And we will never forget number 624. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Peace be with all of us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And for the record, Commissioner Villarreal is present. We will proceed with the proclamation, National Stop the Bleed Day.
It's an honor to be presenting this proclamation today. Is there anybody here to accept this proclamation? Leave the Brownsville Fire Department. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and supporting National Stop the Bleed Day. Whereas uncontrolled bleeding is one of the leading causes of preventable death after injury, and immediate bystander response can save lives. And whereas according to the national trauma data, over 30% of trauma-related deaths are due to blood loss. And rapid intervention with tools such as tourniquets and hemostatic dressings can significantly reduce fatalities. And whereas the Stop the Bleed campaign, initiated by the White House and the U.S. Department of Defense in 2015, empowers every American to take life-saving action during bleeding emergencies. And whereas the state of Texas, through House Bill 496, requires bleeding control kits and staff training in public schools, reflecting the importance of public readiness in bleeding emergencies. And whereas the City of Brownsville is committed to public safety through the collaborative efforts of the Brownsville Fire Department and Trauma Regional Advisory Council V, Injury Prevention Committee, which are actively engaged in public education, outreach, and bleeding control training. And whereas May is recognized nationally as Stop the Bleed Month, with May 22nd designated as National Stop the Bleed Day, providing an opportunity to raise awareness and train residents to respond effectively to trauma bleeding. And now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the Charter of said city, do hereby acknowledge and recognize May 22nd, 2025 as National Stop the Bleed Day in our city, done on this day, the first day of July 2025, signed by the Mayor and City Commission.
Postpone. I think because of the percentage. Yeah.
Don't know if you want to, you hear me? Hello? Is it working? Working? Okay. Just say a few words. Unfortunately, the track representatives couldn't be here because of the weather today. So want to thank you, Mayor, Commissioner, for representing and recognizing this important event. And I'm going to introduce our Lieutenant Roy Ledma of our training division. He's been very instrumental in making this campaign very successful for the fire department, for our whole community, and nationally and internationally. So I'll let him speak on that.
So thank you on behalf of the Brownsville Fire Department. Again, I'm one of many instructors with this campaign, Stop the Bleed. We've taught many schools here in Brownsville. We've taught thousands of our citizens, and we empower them to, with this training, to be able to save people, right? We recently were invited to Victoria, Tamaulipas last year. We expected probably 75 people, and when we arrived, we had 200 people that were registered for this class, Stop the Bleed and Hands-Only CPR. So just so you can see the impact that it has, not only nationally and internationally. It's a very good campaign. We thank those who have supported us, the track and the local hospitals. And again, thank you to the commission for this proclamation, for this recognition. Thank you.
World Social Media Day.
If I can please have Brownsville Online to come up. As you receive this proclamation, I'm extremely honored and proud to be reading a proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizes and celebrates Brownsville Online. Whereas June 30th is recognized as World Social Media Day, highlighting the significance of social media in connecting communities and sharing information. And whereas the initiative behind Bronzeville Online aims to raise awareness of new and existing businesses within our community, ultimately contributing to a thriving local economy and vibrant community culture. And whereas by supporting Bronzeville Online, the city of Bronzeville reinforces its commitment to promoting local entrepreneurship, community events, and collaborative efforts that enhance the overall quality of life for its residents. And whereas Bronzeville Online serves as a platform for promoting local businesses, sharing information about community events, and connecting residents with resources that encourage economic growth. And whereas the city of Bronzeville recognizes the importance of fostering community engagement and supporting local businesses as a means to enhance the vitality of our city. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, do hereby recognize June 30th as World Social Media Day, done on this, the first day of July, 2025.
I'd like just to say a few words to Brownsville Online. Thank you all for all the advocacy you do of our beautiful city and always sharing the positive things and everything to do in the city. Thank you for all your dedication.
Ultimately, I will also share out that, there could be a lot of negativity online. And it is so refreshing to see your page and see how it highlights the city of Bronzeville in such a positive manner, because there are a lot of great things that stem from our city, whether it's the people that live here, whether it's the environment, our beautiful resacas, our wonderful green nature. There's so much that we can highlight within the city of Bronzeville, and I'm really happy that the answer was you. You guys filled in a need and gap where there was craving of positivity and this wanting of information and promoting of small businesses. I've seen you guys where you post something and it's like, hey, this business needs your help because they're thinking of closing down. And you guys post about the business and the community response. And by the time you know it, with the end of that day and the rest of that week, that restaurant is sold out of their meals. And so refreshing to see that the community is helpful. The community is wanting to ensure that others are successful. And I love what you guys are doing. You're utilizing social media to help others. I truly believe that that is God's work. God wants us to be able to help and improve the lives of others. And that's what you're doing through the power of social media. And other pages have followed suit. So you have changed the trajectory from negativity to positivity. And it's evident in the followers and the amount of followers that you have that people love what you're doing. So they have about 144,000 followers. There are not bots, they're actual real people. And you can see that throughout the engagement that they have in their page. So once again, thank you so much. And also just a quick reminder, let's continue to utilize social media in a positive manner, and knowing through the example that the Bronzeville Online has said is the impact of social media, we can also utilize it in a positive manner, which goes 10 times more stronger than any negativity that can go out there. So thank you.
Well, hello. Thank you to the City Commissioners and Mayor John Cohen for this proclamation. My name is Alonso La Torre. Thank you to all my family for always supporting me. And big thank you to all the followers for Brownsville Online. This won't be possible without you. Your support helps me keep this movement going. Thank you.
Public comment period. Section 2-26, under meetings and agendas, number 1, under conduct states that the conversations between and among audience members should be conducted outside the meeting room, and that attendees should refrain from conversations while commission is in session. B, cell phones, that attendees must refrain from the operation and use of the cellular telephones, pagers, etc., or any of the mechanical devices that may disrupt city commission proceedings. C, placards, banners, or signs are not to be permitted in the commission chambers or in any other room in which that the city commission conducts a meeting. Included in this prohibition are the various hats, caps, visors, and T-shirts, which may represent the sentiments alluded to in regards to the placards, banners, and/or signs. D, exhibits, displays, and visual aids used in connections with the presentation to the city commission are permitted. E, only that the city commission members and city staff may approach the dais. If a report, letter, etc., is to be presented to the city commission, it shall be given to the city secretary or staff who will be making the distribution. It is preferred that the item to be distributed be given to the city secretary prior to the meeting. A copy of the item should be made available to the city secretary's official record. F, all comments shall be made to the mayor and the city commission as a whole and not to an individual commission members. Mayor Pro Tem and city commission at this time, we have 4 that have been pre-registered, starting with Javier Dominguez. He will be speaking for Cesar Mirla.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commissioner and City of Brownsville team. My name is Javier Dominguez, and I'll have 3 minutes. I'll try to be as concise and brief as possible. I'm here today on behalf of the Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council. I serve as the executive analyst. I know that Mayor John Cowan is familiar, but for those who may not know, we're the Council of Governments for the 3 counties of Cameron, Hidalgo, and Willacy, and we're here to offer any assistance that we may assist the City of Brownsville and Cameron County at large. Today, I'm here on behalf specifically for the Assistant Director for our Criminal Justice and Homeland Security Department, Mr. Cesar Merla, who will be hosting the 3rd annual Listo RGV Conference. The first 2 were called Ready RGV Conference, but this year he wanted to give it more of a Valley vibe and decided to change the name. It will be held on September 24th to 26th at Margaritaville here at South Padre Island in the Rio Grande Valley. If I may just read a little brief excerpt that he provided for me to read to you today. He said, mark your calendars for an event that promises to energize, educate, and connect. We are thrilled to extend a warm invitation to the City of Brownsville to the annual Listo RGV Conference, an essential gathering for professionals like yourselves and members of the community, where you can recharge and acquire the knowledge, resources, and build crucial relationships, preparing, responding, and recovering to all types of emergencies. The conference will cater to individuals across all levels of government and public service, volunteer organizations, and elected officials, first responders, emergency managers, and decision makers from the entire region. This event provides an opportunity for collaboration during National Preparedness Month and enjoy the beach at the same time. One of the 2 things he really wanted me to highlight today is that what's really awesome about this conference that we're putting for the region is that for individuals in law enforcement that can take advantage of TCO credit hours. All they have to do is take the short drive to the island to take the conference versus going outside of the region. And we also are offering for the first time behavioral health CEUs for those who can take advantage of those as well. This conference is not only just put on by our Criminal Justice and Homeland Security Department, but also in conjunction with other departments of the LRGVDC, such as the Lower Rio Grande Valley Academy, and they will be the ones helping us reporting the TCO credit hours. The theme this year is long-term recovery. Everyone always works on preparedness, but long-term recovery is also something that's crucial and something we want to focus on. Long-term recovery can be a week, 2 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, depending on the severity of the national emergency. And so with that, I yield my time and I just want to say thank you for allowing us to come and speak and extend an invitation. I do have some flyers, but if it'll work better, I can follow up with City Secretary and provide a digital copy for the flyer to share with everyone here with the City of Brownsville. Thank you.
The next speaker we have is Sergio Zarate.
Good evening. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Mayor and staff. Hello, good evening. My name is Sergio Zarate, and I'm here on behalf of your Special Needs Advisory Board. I am the chair, and we have a very special invite to give you and those out there on TV land to come out too. On March 12, 1990, more than 60 activists abandoned their crutches, wheelchairs, power chairs, and other mobility assistant devices and began crawling up the 83 stone steps that led to the U.S. Capitol. This young lady here, was one of those. Her name is Jennifer Keelan. She was 8 years old. She was the youngest one to get off her chair and walk up those steps. Now, they did this in protest because they were trying to pass the ADA law, and then Congress, the congressmen and women and senators were there were some issues with it. But when they did this, and when she became that iconic picture, it passed. So within a couple of months, President H.W. Bush, on July 26, 1990, passed the Americans with Disabilities Act. I say that because our invitation to you is for July 26th of this year. It will be the 35th anniversary. And I'd like to just point out a few things here in our city. Because of their crawl, our malls, convention centers, hospitals, City Hall have buttons by the doors to open it for us. I know you may think it was put there by Simon Properties or Doroteo Garcia, but I assure you, it was the ADA. The walkways, ramps, handles on stairs when we go to the Sam Stadium were put there for your safety and because they crawled. The sidewalks and ramps at most intersections, which bicyclists, runners, and skaters think that they were put there because of them, was put there because of Jennifer Keelan, not cyclopia. That's a joke. I'm not trying to say anything there. Her quote was saying, during the Capitol crawl, it wasn't just to proclaim my rights, but it was also to proclaim the rights of my generation and future generations of people with disabilities. And she actually did write a book, which our public library has, and we will have copies available that day for your children to pass out. So it'll be on July 26th. It'll be at the Linear Park. We will have a walk and roll event. So what we're going to do is be at Linear Park, then walk across the street to the federal courthouse to take an iconic picture of us celebrating this day. The city of Brownsville has never really done this to celebrate that day. It's time. It's time, and I'm hoping that with this message and this event, that it would reinvigorate the city commission to continue to do the great work that you all do already, but to continue the ADA paths of places that we still haven't gotten to yet. And so with that, it's an invitation for July 26th. I want to thank our Parks and Recreation chair, has helped us in the past, and Vail and Parks and Recreation and your SNAP board.
Mr. Sarat, is there an hour though, on July 26th?
9 to 11
9 to 12. Thank
on
you.
that day.
Hopefully everyone, a lot of people can join.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. So I will leave these. This is our new SNAP board pamphlets, and I will leave them there with. Thank you so much for your time.
And the last speaker we have is Yolanda Spees.
Members of the commission, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, city staff, and community. Here we are again, and to be honest, I wish we weren't. We've got rockets blowing up just miles from our houses, headlines calling Brownsville the city of the future, but some of us are still scared to call the police. That's not progress. That's a sign something is not adding up. As they say in the South, that dog don't hunt. At the last meeting, I asked if anyone was actually paying attention. 2 weeks later, still quiet, crickets. But the weight of what people are feeling hasn't gone away. If anything, it's heavier. Just look at what happened in Harris County this past weekend. 3 inmates died this month in custody. Think that can't happen here? That's exactly how it starts. We've got officers breaking basic rules like parking in front of fire hydrants, like they don't have to follow the same rules that the rest of us do. Meanwhile, folks with all their paperwork in order still get nervous when they see those flashing lights. That's not random, that's learned. That's the kind of fear that builds up over time because the message we keep getting is your voice doesn't matter and you don't have any rights. And every time someone says, oh, well, that's just how it is everywhere. Well, I have to ask, why can't we be the ones who can change that? Why can't things be different here? If someone shows up to this mic with concerns like this, don't treat them like a nuisance, don't disregard them, and don't tell them that it's inappropriate for us to even come and approach you with that. I've said this before, if you can't handle being questioned, you probably shouldn't be leading and you probably shouldn't be sitting in those seats. This isn't theater, this isn't a fantasy film that you're watching, this is reality. These are people's lives. I'm not here to stir things up. I'm here because people in this city who don't have pull and don't have connections are still being pushed aside and disregarded, and that's not okay. They're tired of it. I'm tired of it. So I'll ask again, if someone on this commission could speak with me after this meeting, I'd like to know how we can go about setting up a proper town hall. Somewhere where people can speak openly without a timer and without fear of being ignored. Because if trust really matters, it's on us to build and maintain it. It's on all of us to build and maintain it. Thank you.
City manager's update. The tourism-friendly Texas city certification by the state of Texas.
I'm going to invite Mali Montesan. She's our Assistant Director of Conventions and Visitors Bureau to speak on this great news for our community. Good evening, Commission. I'm excited. I don't want to cry because it's a great accomplishment for the city. I'm going to walk you through a little bit on how we were awarded this designation. It was close to a 6 months process of submitting information on how to become a tourism-friendly city. This application was made possible with this great support from our tourism coordinator, Ms. Eva, and we find it important to highlight why Bronzeville is a tourism-friendly city. It was with putting in the efforts on how we use our funding, how we support local entities, nonprofits through hotel occupancy tags, the community outreach, the events that we hold in the city, and all of the outreach that we do in travel expos, shows, advertising campaigns, and the awards granted by the Texas Association of Convention and Visitors Bureau. How we will use this designation is we are going to promote Brownsville in all of our marketing materials, putting it on our website as an official designated tourism-friendly city. And we do want to highlight, before anything else, that Brownsville is the only city now, as of May 16, designated as a tourism-friendly city within the Cameron County and Hidalgo County. So we are extremely excited for that. And last, I did come prepared, I promise. Super short speech and thank you. This is a proud and historic milestone for the CVB and in general for the city of Brownsville. We are deeply grateful for the Office of the Governor, the Tourism and Economic Development, and the support that we had from state representatives, Aaron Gomez, Janie Lopez, and Ms. Helen Ramirez. Without their support, it was crucial for us to achieve this recognition. So we are very grateful for that. And last but not least, our CVB staff, which you see us running around. We are a short staff, a small staff, but we are mighty and we are grateful and we love our city. And that's what we try to do every single day when we promote and we go out there. So thank you very much. And we can't wait to see what Brownsville has for tourism moving forward. Thank you.
That take the photo.
Presentations. The next item, which is Tu Salud Se Cuenta, the annual report, has been requested to be tabled at a future date, so no action is needed. The next presentation is the 89th legislative session recap.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I'm here with Snapper Carr, our lobbyist from Focus Advocacy, who's going to be providing the 89th legislative session recap.
Mayor, Commission, Ms. Manager, thank you for having me. Again, my name is Snapper Carr. I'm partner and general counsel with the firm Focused Advocacy in Austin, Texas. It's been a real honor and a pleasure in our inaugural session of representing the city and working with your team in Austin and many of you that we got to work with both before, during, and now after session. I have a lot to cover. I'm going to try to keep it concise. There was a whole lot, as y'all are well aware, that went on with regards to session. We probably could dig into one topic and blow up your whole schedule of time, but I won't do that to the city manager. But I will be available to answer questions, and we'll be around afterwards as well. So there we go. Wanted to just quickly mention our whole team works on y'all's. Y'all got to meet many of these folks. My partners in particular, Brandon Agamelian, Kurt Seidlitz, and Lindley Hurd, all play significant roles and are policy matter experts in their own right and work on y'all's behalf as well. Of course, you can't do a legislative wrap up without talking about your own legislative delegation. We really can't achieve a whole lot without their involvement and input and position. And as you will see from your team, of course, you have a freshman state senator and Senator Adam Hinojosa. And then you have more senior members and some that are gaining in Rep. Lopez. But what you will note from this that I would like to point out to y'all is that they were appointed to committees that really impacted your region and were in position to really do a lot of good for the city and for the overall region with the positions that they were on. And all of them were, you had good coverage, if you will, to have some really good input on some really big policy matters. Wanted to give you a quick overview of the bill's numbers. And this snapshot, I think, is more important when doing a wrap up for local government, cities in particular, because it really paints the picture of what you're contending with at the Capitol and overall in the debate. For context, there were 9,014 bills total. That's Senate, House bills, and joint resolutions or proposed constitutional amendments. That is a record filing, a significant record. The previous one was a little over 8,300. So a large number of bill filings, all-time high. You will note of that little over 9,000 bills, we tracked, and the Texas Municipal League tracked, over 2,600 bills that had directly affected city operations, good, bad, or indifferent, in some manner. That's fully almost 1/3 of all of the bills filed. That's pretty consistent with historical data. And just to give you context on that, that's by far and away the largest cities at the Capitol, by far and away, have more bills that impact them than any other entities, without a close second. And that includes private sector entities as well that may have a few hundred bills, whereas we're dealing with a few thousand that affect operations. A little over 3,000 bills passed out of committee, 2,181 passed out of their chamber of origin. So if a House bill or Senate bill was filed, they passed one chamber. Overall, we had 1,213 bills passed. Of note, for modern era, that's also in total number and percentage, one of the lowest bill passage in history. So most filed, fewest passed. But of that, you will see there, off of that track of over 2,600 bills, we had 289 bills that were on there that made it to the governor, that got to his desk. That's just shy of 1/4 of every bill that landed on his desk had a direct impact on city operations in some form or fashion. And again, there's not a close second to cities with regards to that number of bills. Most interest groups, public or private, will have anywhere from 10 to 20 bills, maybe, not at this level. So a very significant number of issues. It's really just a reflection of the scope of services that you all have to the community. And when you start thinking about all those, there is a statute that is at the root of all of your operations. Leadership set out some pretty aggressive priorities. I will say one of the things that this session characterized was a much better relationship amongst the three main leaders, particularly of that between the Lieutenant Governor and the House Speaker. Lieutenant Governor, both during session and after session, said that he worked with Speaker Burrows better than any other speaker in his career. You saw a lot less of fighting back and forth. Y'all have a document that outlines some of these exact bills in your backup materials, but you will see the governor laid out his emergency items there: property tax relief, water infrastructure investment, teacher pay raises, which was also part and parcel to the school choice and vouchers, but affordable housing, expanding career training, bail reform, and the creation of a Texas Cyber Command, which was also created. The governor achieved all of his emergency priority items, had a very successful session. Lieutenant Governor, as you will see, passed 31 of the 40 bills that he laid forth, and the Speaker had 39 of 30. There are two areas that I wanted to mention that were significant overlap between the two that affected cities that were priorities. And we'll talk about a few of the bills, but one of those areas was your local financial tools, the ability to issue debt, set your own tax rates, and kind of manage that fiscal aspect. Some of the reforms that were proposed would put severe limitations on that. And there were priorities both from the Speaker and Lieutenant Governor that would have achieved those. And we'll talk about some of those. And then the next area that was most dramatic out of that list of priorities were limitations or changes with regards to land use and development tools. And they were really rooted in the need for housing affordability and availability as it was set forth by the governor. And that candidly, the development community came to Austin and at some point kind of said cities were at the root cause of that. Not Brownsville particularly, but cities around the state. And so there were proposals, a number of proposals that put significant limits on local land use and development authority. We'll talk about some of that as we move through. Starting with y'all's priorities, and I think we recap one of the statements there where y'all in y'all's adopted agenda for going into session, which was reaffirming your partnership, dedicating to local control and community-based decision-making for your residents. I think that was a good thing to highlight because that was at the center and it was a bit of a guiding light for us in a lot of the discussions that we had, a lot of the policy debate, a lot of the more negative proposals from our point of view were things that were preemptive in nature, and they were really taking the decision-making from here and moving it to Austin. And so that was having that in your agenda, and that was really at the center of a lot of our discussion. And certainly there was a support for the space industry and expansion bill passed, reaffirming the Space Commission and also added funding to that function, including for infrastructure and grants, significant infusion of additional money that will be available to Brownsville and other communities working in the space industry and development. This session, I mentioned there were so many bills, and it's important to know because local governments, and Brownsville certainly did this as well, collectively helped oppose things that did violate some of those local matters. And in a normal session, I would tell you in my 30 years of working with cities around the Capitol, we will have 2 to 3 really, really high profile, what I'll call level 1, grade A. It will change the way we do business sort of bills that we debate generally, 2 to 3. This session was marked a little differently. We had about 15 to 20 bills that we would put in that category on things from hard caps on your ability to issue debt, limitations on different property tax issues. And again, all of it kind of stemming with removing that from the local and the community-based. Even some of these limits would not allow voters to approve, like bond issuances if you were at a certain debt level. And so really that issue of preemption and those things were items that we had to work on. You see local preemption there, 2 bills, and one that y'all engaged in heavily in helping us oppose was a super preemption bill. This was an extension of a bill from last session that's currently being challenged as unconstitutional. It was referred to as the Death Star bill. This bill would have expanded the preemption levels to some other codes, the Health and Safety Code and the Local Government Code, which is kind of hard to understand how it would work, preempting us from the statute of code that was passed for cities. But the bigger issue within regards to this, and it's something that I think we might see back, is that it created a enforcement mechanism that would have allowed a filing of the complaint with the Attorney General's office. And if that complaint was filed and alleged that the city was not in compliance with state law, it would empower the Attorney General to withhold 25% of your sales tax and to freeze your tax rate at the no new tax rate until a determination was made whether or not you were in violation of the complaint that was filed. And that the AG's office would have been the one that made that. We will see these sorts of things coming back. Land use authority, we mentioned, there was a number of bills and collectively the only way I could describe them and their effect would have been the privatization and deregulation of the development processes statewide. There were the HB 23 again, which was a priority, others that you see there that would have, again, severely restricted. Now, generally, most of those fell by the wayside, and the ones that didn't, that we'll talk about that passed, were heavily bracketed. But this issue will be back. These issues will be back, and they'll be discussed over the interim again. So always something, but that's one area we know. Economic development tools were also under the gun, limitations on Chapter 380 authority, hotel recruitment. Y'all are qualified for the state program on economic development. There were proposals that would have greatly limited the ability to use that state economic tool to recruit hotel and resort type destination developments. Again, more large bills that we had to work against. Senate Bill 19 would have prohibited advocacy both through groups and through working with professionals in Austin like ourselves. We expect that will be back. There were proposals to move all elections to November for bonds and local official elections. In essence, we would have one election. That's been proposed in multiple ways. All of these were extremely involved bills, and they also took a lot of energy statewide from local governments to stop some of these proposals. I worked heavily on HB 4272, which was an attempt to shift about $1 billion from private sector to local governments for utility relocation of private infrastructure in connection with public works projects. And that would have been ongoing. Fortunately, that didn't pass. Along with, and then the last one I'm going to mention on the cutting room floor, is House Bill 19. That bill, which I think we could see back, and I'm afraid that we could see some of its components back as early as the special session, is a limitation on debt ability. But the biggest aspect of that is, this was a new proposal, it had never been proposed before in past sessions, was a hard debt cap of 20% to your income level. And that 20% cap then said, till you're below that, you cannot issue debt. That means voter approved debt. That means any type of debt. We finally had a few exceptions for some emergency and public safety items at that, but ultimately that bill did not pass. And we also, in that one, I would note, saw a lot more private sector support that realized the impact of that. So folks that do a lot of the construction and design and engineering of projects really became allies with local governments in opposing that. I think we will see that back again, as we mentioned. Property tax, on to things that did pass. The legislature committed $51 billion over the next period of years to buy down our property tax liability in the state, primarily through focused on the school M&O reduction rates. You will see Senate Bill 4 and Senate Joint Resolution. All of these resolutions will be voted on in November. They expect to be approved, but they will have to be ratified by the voters to put them into place. We extend the homestead school exemption. These are on school taxes to $140,000. The state pays for that from the $100,000 that was passed last session. And in addition, Senate Bill 23 expands the homestead exemption again on school taxes for seniors to up to $200,000. And then the one that applies across the board is House Bill 9, and you will see a dramatic increase in the exemption for tangible personal property, moving it from its current level of $2,500 to $250,000. So very significant, very costly. This is how they spent the bulk of their money to buy down or reduce property taxes with our surplus. This is the plan that passed. Some of the bills that passed follow the themes of what we've talked about already. Preemption in certain areas. One that's caught a lot of attention since the end of session is this food truck bill. It created a statewide system for true food truck vendors. So it had established one fee, preempted some of those. I understand some communities had some relatively high permit fees for food trucks. And then also it set up a system basically where the Texas Department of Health would issue a statewide certificate. So those are some examples of things. Backup power generation, another one where we were preempted from city code enforcement. However, there was a provision added that if you have a municipally owned electric utility, we helped achieve this, that those inspectors and connections, because you are connecting to the power system, with backup generation. And so there were several bills filed in this area. Move on to land use real quickly. Senate Bill 15 is what was referred to as the tiny lot bill. It basically was a bill that would have applied statewide as filed to say that you couldn't have a minimum lot size of greater than 1,400 square feet. It also allowed for very dense development and took away a lot of the ultimate tools that the community has to kind of have input on certain development opportunities. This bill did pass the last day of session, but it only applies to the 15 largest cities in the state now, the way that it's bracketed, and it only applies to lots that are previously unplatted that are of 5 acres or more, and a few other changes for certain areas if that development's occurring in, but it was heavily bracketed. I bring it up, though, to say that in all of these, we expect that we will see these issues back, that they aren't going away. Senate Bill 840 is another one that has garnered a lot of attention. This bill was heavily supported by outside interests, or over 45 different groups that supported this, and it was initially kind of marketed as a conversion of office towers that were empty in larger municipalities. Again, this bill now only applies to the 16 largest cities in the state with its population bracket, but ultimately, I think that bracket could be looked at again. That was added very late, and it would allow for multifamily in any residential, and it removes any sort of kind of public process for this sort of multifamily density. The Senate Bill 1844 was a bill we worked on very heavily. There was a House companion there too. You see it at Taos. Brownsville was very involved in expressing your opinion on this as well. And it was very helpful because initially this bill would have allowed any landowner to petition to disannex their property under certain conditions if they didn't feel their service levels for various utilities were up to speed. The bill was candidly not drafted in a way that would have been very easy to manage or apply. Ultimately, now it has been bracketed down in a way that it's very narrow. This bill was originally filed for a situation on Lake Austin, and it's been filed several sessions. It ultimately passed and now says this applies only to property that does not receive water or wastewater from the city and is on a navigable waterway. And so much more narrow, but certainly still applies statewide. Open government, a bill that passed that I wanted to note about, HB 1522, which is now moved the 3-day posting rule to be only for business days. The one little story about this bill as it passed, the bill analysis says that this is the purpose and intent of this bill was to stop local governments from posting on a Friday and holding a public meeting on a Monday. Unfortunately, this bill was passed by being posted on a meeting on a Friday and heard on a Monday and passed. And so sometimes the irony is pretty good during session, but those sorts of minutia bills of how you operate are things that make up those 2,600 bills. And it's, like I said, at times a bit overwhelming for local governments, just given how much you all have both to provide services for here, and then ultimately how that looks in the statutory construction of it. Senate Bill 1851 was a bill that added for the first time penalties for failure to complete and post your municipal audits. Some pretty significant penalties. And so that's a bill that warrants close compliance because the penalties are very significant for failure on that one. One of the bright spots, I would say, from session, both for the legislature and probably from the perspective of local governments was the passage of historic water funding, both for infrastructure projects and for maintenance of old systems. Brownsville and BPUB received some of those fundings out of this, both direct appropriations and programs that were set up that would allow for applications primarily through the Texas Water Development Board. There is a component of this that'll be again voted on in November to establish a trust fund that allows for that money to continue to be used. But it's over $10 billion in water funding. That meets the governor's call for a Texas-sized investment in water, and it is one that they certainly delivered on. It was, in our experience, it was very rare for cities or local governments to receive earmarks, if you will, by name of projects. And at the end of session, at the final hours of the budget being done, literally hundreds of millions of dollars, if not in the billions, were put forth to advance water supply projects and various water infrastructure projects in the state budget by name to local governments. And that was a rarity. That's not something that happens very often. And again, I think was a product of one, a huge budget surplus, and two, the governor's emphasis on calling for that in his state of the state. Moving to the next, where are we heading? The governor, despite right after session saying we didn't believe there was anything that was going to necessitate calling them back, about a week later that changed, and a special session right after his series of vetoes, most high profile being Senate Bill 3, the THC ban that he vetoed, and added the various items to the call. We will reconvene on July 21st. That must end by the 19th. Just a reminder, it's members can file all the bills that they want. They don't have to see it on a call to have a bill filed. But the only things that can be considered and acted on are those things that are solely and expressly added by the governor to his proclamation call. We currently have that list. Fortunately, I do not believe that cities are going to escape that without being in the discussion. I think there will likely be a discussion on property tax items that will be added to the call. It's been alluded to, both some of these restrictions that we talked about earlier and maybe some other proposals that we really didn't even see during the regular session. But property tax reform, certainly there is a wide discussion about, and there has been a call from the Trump administration for Texas to look at a mid-decade redistricting for our congressional seats, which would, I think the idea behind that would be to maybe add a couple of more favorable Republican seats before the midterms is what is being considered. That hasn't been added to the call, and we've had that happen in Texas before in years past. It undoubtedly will be highly divisive if that is. In previous specials, when that occurred in years past, we actually had groups of senators and House members relocate to other states to break quorum, so that could not be acted on in a timely manner. The other item that is being widely discussed for special session call would again be that limitation on cities and local governments' abilities to advocate in different forms. It has been alluded that it could be added as well. Candidate filings begin on November 8th. We are already well into the campaign finance cycle again. That restriction is off and they're back at it. And we even have our first interim hearing announced for July 15th on a water matter in House Natural Resource. And we will have those interim items come out sometime likely in October, November of this year that will set the stage for the next interim. Again, these are the items now that have been set forth for the governor to consider. Senate Bill 3, again, is going to be the one that gets the most highlighting and discussion. The governor was very detailed in what he called for with regards to that. He called for basically a proposal that looked a lot like the item that was rejected in the House to have a regulatory system for those existing shops. You will see some of these other items that he had direct concerns with. But the biggest thing probably from the vetoes to look at is how it affects the lieutenant governor and the governor's relationship going forward and the governance of it, because it was a definite high-profile issue. And the governor, lieutenant governor, held a press conference shortly after that veto that was clear that they were going to have a change in the way that they had been governing with one another. I know we went through that fast, and like I said, we could definitely cover a lot of ground. But one thing that I just wanted to say from y'all is your staff, the management team, and certainly y'all's input was excellent this session and really timely and helped in some real critical moments. I mean, in my experience, there's not one city that can really overall affect the whole outcome of some of these large topics in and of themselves. It takes a collective group of cities telling their stories, talking about the community impacts, because they do vary. And by and large, even though we had 15 to 20 of these high profile bills and then thousands of other bills, cities came out in pretty good shape. It was a tough session. And there were times that I would not have gave you that report had some of the bills that were on the verge of passing. But ultimately, in about the last 2 weeks of session, the plane was landed and we escaped, I think, some of the more onerous bills that were filed, and we saw some good wins in some areas. So I'm hopeful for next session. I think that we look forward to working with y'all as y'all advance and move your agenda forward with those things that are important to your community. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Just thank you, Snapper. I think it's important, especially HB 19 and the possible cap on our debt, given that we were in the midst of, in our capital improvement program, wanting to build a public safety complex. So that was very critical. Thank you, Mayor and Commission, for your support in that opposition, and that ultimately did not pass. So appreciate everyone's help here, and Snapper, I know you kept us very well informed, and City Attorney's Office as well was very instrumental in supporting staff with this as well. So appreciate that.
Commissioners, my name is Steven Eliseo Muse. I'm the interim finance director right now, and I'll be going over our first workshop, and it's intended to be a budget orientation of our budget process. So we'll be looking at some legislation that impacts or could have impacted our budget process to start. Then we'll move into an overview of our budget process to explain the how and why of things as it relates to our budget and some of our end of year projections. We'll talk about our capital improvement plan, the background on it and some of its fiscal year 25 projects, as well as the companion program, our capital outlay program. And lastly, we'll touch briefly on what our next workshop will cover and provide a timeline of key dates. So first and foremost, we have the Senate Bill 2. This was passed in 2019 and essentially lowered the cap on property tax revenue growth from 8 to 3.5%. And basically anything over 3.5% triggers an automatic election. And because of this cap, we've lost about 1 million per year, or over 6 million per year over the past 6 years. And another way to look at that is that we could have, restricted more streets or hired 10 to 15 people, depending on their wage, of course, right? But understand that really makes the fact that the city has lowered the total tax rate by nearly 14%, going back to 2020, that much more impressive. House Bill 19 is another piece of legislation that did not pass, but it was a concern for us. As was previously mentioned, it does put a 20% cap on our tax-supported debt, and it essentially would have dismantled our capital improvement program. We would have not been able to do more than one single project at a time. Essentially, the first responders equipment that we need to replace and acquire would have been jeopardized, as well as the public safety complex that we're planning to build. And one of the bigger items that would have been impacted is that we use CO funding for local matches to secure federal funds. So we would have looked at losing over 60 million in state and federal funds. But the actions that the city took, city leadership and city management, they clearly expressed firm opposition to the proposal, maintains engagement throughout the process, which had a big hand in preventing the passage of this. And one thing we did do as a contingency was develop an alternative CIP list that would have focused on maximizing our projects that we had started and we need to finish, as well as securing as much federal funding as we could have. Luckily, we're going to continue with our regularly planned CIP because this was blocked, right? Another item was the migrant influx grants. These were intended to reimburse local governments and nonprofits for assisting and processing migrants as they came through. We had been awarded $12.9 million through fiscal year 2026, and these have been abruptly terminated. So we have been compelled to discontinue our services. However, federal agencies still continue to drop off migrants at La Plaza, and they're processed by Greyhound and through the city, right? However, we still maintain, our emergency management team still maintains coordination with these agencies. They request daily reports, weekly reports, to stay on top of it and be abreast of any potential items that would be a concern to us. And of course, we continue to adhere to all federal directives, and we continue to pursue all avenues to make sure we get as much reimbursed as we can. So now we're getting into the budget process. And before you even start the budget process, you want to make sure you have a good foundation for your strategic planning. And part of our foundation includes three components, being the policy statements, the strategic approach, and the budget assumptions. And these are shown in a triangle that hopefully depicts how they're interrelated and connected to each other, right? But the policy statements essentially are formalized directives. They're a transparent decision-making tool that we bring to commission when we need to update it and disclose what we're changing and get it approved through a resolution, right? The two big items I have an example of here is the sales tax cap of 37%. We're around 32% of our budget sales tax-wise, and so the 37% gives us room for growth, as well as puts a limit on us from over-relying on sales tax. So it kind of forces us to diversify.
So the cap is self-imposed because what we want, understanding that sales tax has this peaks, valleys and peaks. We don't really want to rely too much on sales tax for operating costs, including which most of it is personnel. So we do not, I've seen situations where cities have relied too much on sales tax. Then when they've hit a valley, they've had to lay off employees. We need to be, responsible, but also, meet our policy. That's why we have a budget policy to be able to, when we need a little bit more, we can still have that, but within a cap. So it's a self-imposed cap, and it's a responsible one.
Another item that I'll highlight is the 90-day fund balance requirement, and that is just a matter of fiscal discipline to prepare for any unforeseen event, such as another COVID-like event where we're on a lockdown or something like that. We would be able to continue operations without impact for 3 months. Another item is the strategic approach, right, which is basically our goal-oriented planning and how we allocate our resources. And each request from every single department should align with one or more of these pillars here, the commission pillars. And underneath that, we have our budget assumptions, and this is the most technical process. And that sets our perimeters for decision-making. And it's based on current trends, historical data, economic outlooks, and it's very necessary to develop a balanced and, most importantly, a realistic budget. And so once we have this foundation in place, we're all in agreement on it. It really helps us set a path forward that sets us up for success. We've recently been upgraded to AA+ because of this type of strategic planning, while other cities have, unfortunately experienced deficits, right? So we have Austin with 33 million deficit, and then San Antonio with 15 million deficit. So with that in mind, we go into our annual budget workflow. We do start with the strategic planning, which I just touched on, and then we move into our budget prep and review, where basically every department assesses what they need. They submit those requests. They have one-on-one meetings with city manager, assistant city managers, and then we move into the public input side of things in July through August, where we have our presentations and our public hearings. In September, we'll have a final budget for your review and adoption. And then in October, we implement it and set up those funds as was approved by commission, and we get to sit back and enjoy a hot coffee after all that work. Here we'll talk about some of the things that some initiatives we had in fiscal year 2025. And we go back to 2023 because some of them are continuations of what was started in 2023, carried through 2024 and completed in 2025, right? And I do want to highlight that there's some positions, those full-time positions added per year at the top, and combined, those only add up to about 2% of the total positions that we have. So we've stayed very lean position-wise, and some of the focus we've had is making sure our employees are compensated as best we can, right? And to start in 2023, there was a compensation analysis that was implemented at 88% of market, a stipend-based market gap. And then the one I particularly like is the life insurance payout that increased from $10,000 to $50,000. A lot of people don't know that, the $10,000 would pretty much just cover a viewing and cremation. If you wanted a plot, a coffin, and everything else, you were going to leave your family in some debt. So that increase to $50,000 really makes a big, it's a really big impact on us. And it's not something we like to think about, but it's something we want to prepare for so we don't leave our families with a big burden. So that's one of my favorites there. And then we also presented on longevity pay, which would be a stipend based on years of service. In phase 2, fiscal year 2024, so more compensation analysis was done to fill in those gaps. Fixed stipend was processed, and very generous 3.5% COLA cost of living adjustment was done, and the longevity pay was actually implemented that year. In fiscal year 25, you can see that we have a whole lot of new initiatives there, culminating our efforts from the previous years. The work schedule, the flex schedule, there was a lot of research done, a lot of surveys done to employees to make sure that what we put together was successful, and we ended up with 410 schedules as an option and 980s. The city also did another cost of living adjustment at 3%, as well as offering pet insurance. That's not paid for by the city, but the city does leverage its economies of scale to get a better rate. And so if they get their pet insurance through us, they're going to get a better deal than if they went as a single person. Tuition reimbursement was another big one we did this year. Up to $5,000 can be reimbursed to cover their cost of attending college. So that's another commitment that the city has made to invest in the development of its employees. We've also increased the annual leave by 5 days, 2 additional holidays, Christmas Eve and Columbus or Indigenous Day. And then there's paid parental leave, which is 6 weeks of paid leave, whether you have accruals or not. And that's also available if you would adopt a child as well. So it's a really great initiative. Increased the minimum wage to $13 an hour, as well as implemented the Frontier Clinic, which has been very successful. Everyone I've talked to has really enjoyed the experience with them. And then there's ongoing compensation studies, and the longevity pay is being continued as well.
Just to point out, if you go back to the slide, as you can see, we've been lean on the number of full-time full-time employees, FTEs that we've been able to hire because we've been compensating existing tenured employees that have been here and to retain the workforce. And so while you see 12 FTEs, 6 of those was because we lost grant funding from health grants have been really under fire in the last couple of years. And so what we do is when they don't renew, and the health department in that case would experience that with 6 positions, we absorbed it in the general fund to maintain that service that we were providing. So sometimes we absorb even grant positions. So really, even though it says 12, it's really 6 new ones with 6 that we retained after a grant went away. And we try to retain even our grant-funded positions if they're providing a service. Okay. Also, I'd like to thank, there's a subcommittee of the budget that many of these recommendations also are created in coordination with them. We had Commissioner Villarreal, Commissioner Martinez, and Commissioner Macias. I want to thank them for that.
Here we take a look at our end of year projections. So on the left, you'll see our revenue classification, the adopted amount, the amended amount, followed by our end of year actuals projection, and then the variance from the amended. You can see on sales tax that is still performing very well. Fees and services performing really well again, as thanks to the ambulance fees. And the one that looks a little negative there is the utilities, BPUB utilities, but that actually offsets an expense, and that decrease there is also a decrease in the expenses, so it's not really decreased revenue. The big takeaway, though, is that we're expected to receive 144 million in revenues. And here we have the same thing with the look at our expenditures, same format. We have our adopted, amended, and the year projection, and then the variances, right? And the big item here to take away is the 140 million in total expenses that we're projecting. So that leaves us with a surplus of about 4 million at the end of the year. But before we get to that, I want to talk about how the budget, those expenses are actually allocated, how we're spending it, right? And so over half of that is allocated to public safety. General government follows that at about 23%, culture and recreation at 9%, followed by public works at 7.6%, and then public health at 3.4%. Transfers to other funds we'll talk about in a little bit, and that's the operational transfers we provide to special revenue and enterprise funds. And then on the right, we have the budget by activity, which shows basically the percentage of our costs that are allocated to personnel, and the percentage that are allocated to actual operational costs, right? So we're at 63.80% for personnel and 36.20% for all other expenses. And the one thing I did want to mention is last year's workshop, when we're talking about fiscal year 24, on this same budget by activity, we had 69% at personnel and 31% for all others. So we've shifted, about 5% from personnel to all others. So you can, I think it's appropriate to say we are doing more with less staff. Here's the summary of the end of year projections. There's a narrative on the left that explains what we typically use the surplus for, and below that, I put the typical. It's not necessarily what we're going to do, but it's typically what's been done in the past. We'll prepare a end of year amendment that we'll bring in August with more final numbers for you and exactly what that surplus will be used for. The other funds, here's their end of year projections. You have their beginning fund balance, the revenues, the operating transfers, the expenses, and then the ending fund balance. Overall, performing as expected. What we really want to highlight here is the operating transfers. It's that middle column there. The positive numbers are inflows by that fund from general fund. The negative number there are the transfers that are coming out from the fund going into general fund. So in total, general fund receives about 12.4 million in operating transfers from landfill and bridge fund. and in turn provides 6.8 million to special revenue or enterprise funds. I also want to note that the Bridge Fund also supports 400,000 for a capital outlay program annually, and 600,000 is dedicated to our fleet replacement program.
So a landfill is doing exceptional, and we continue to grow and extend the life of the landfill and buy equipment. I know they got a compactor, I think yesterday or the day before, and they were very excited about that. So extending the life of the landfill is very important as it generates millions of dollars, including a transfer of over 9 million to the general fund. So that's very important.
So next, we'll take a look at our capital improvement plan. It was the first formal CIP for the city was established in 2021, and that totaled 83 million, including the CO issuances and the grants. And today it has evolved to encompass 404 million worth of projects, right? 293 from COs that leverage another 111 million from grants or other sources such as partnerships with BCIC and JBIC that help us out with several different projects. And quite a few of these projects are actually spread over multiple phases that span several years. So while it is a dynamic plan and they're kind of a living document, as you may say, there is some commitment to follow through on projects that were previously started, right? So if we did some design in this year, we want to make sure we follow through on that and start phase one the following year. And how we project our future debt capacity is based on a conservative 3% of property taxable value growth, and that's below the Senate Bill 2 cap of 3.5%. So we're very comfortable with that number. The criteria for the CIP are that it prioritizes safety, community, and city infrastructure, and of course that it aligns with the Commission's strategic mission, and of course our target debt rate of maintaining that 25 cents. Here we have a condensed list of our CIP projects that have been started in fiscal year 2025. It's condensed, a little hard to see. We really did have a long list, and for comparison's sake, the total here is 121, and this is just 1 year of our new CIP program, right? The initial CIP was 83 million in total over 5 years, so we're dwarfing it. This is truly an ambitious and visionary plan. And part of that was the zoo expansion. We did do 2 issuances to maintain that 25-cent debt rate. And the first issuance was primarily for the zoo expansion. The next one included funds for the design of the public safety complex, renovations for the city library, city hall, the air rescue and firefighting building, which is the fire station located on the airfield, replacement generators for certain buildings, and animal shelter renovation, right? We've also done or started some improvements. The runway 1836 reconstruction is a 3-phase project, so it'll be continued over 3 years. Existing parks and possible park developments, downtown improvements and trails, traffic signal timing implementation, and then the landfill items like the scale house and cell number 5 construction, which, as the city manager just mentioned, will increase the life of our landfill. Walkways and trails, the West Trail to B&M, the West Trail to the sports park, and the West Trail amenities projects, the next 2 phases of the southmost trail, and Morrison Mentabella Park trails. Complete street reconstruction consisting primarily of Old Highway 77 and sidewalk gaps and alleys, and then some drainage projects that leverage Texas Water Development Board funding as well, that focus on stream gauging and water quality monitoring and drainage at the Boca Chica locations, and then heavy equipment for various departments, right? Ambulances for fire EMS, compactors for landfill, buses for transit, and tactical support vehicle for PD. So a lot of projects and a lot of good things coming down the pipeline.
I would like to state that a little over 30%, about 31% is grant funded. I think that's very important as we leverage if you go back to the slide, leveraging our grants and also, identifying the matches to that grant. So that's very powerful in terms of how our grant department and our departments, all departments but specifically grants, really are just great. They're like an engine, right, that try to take advantage of every situation where grants are available or the Texas Water Development Board is available. So, and Federal Transit Administration and FAA, for example.
That's an excellent point, Helen. I think to also add to that, just being able to have the master plans and our CIPs, when the money does become available and we have the plan ready to go, we can execute right then and there. So it's a great planning technique to be able to do.
So for traffic synchronization, that's where we've seen the acceleration. When TxDOT may have discretionary funding, that's when we can get accelerated, or the RGVMPO. I know with Category 7 has re-identified the definition of what you can use eligible projects for. So we have that list and we're ready to go if and when discretionary or additional funds are available.
So next we have our capital outlay program, and three things to remember about it are one, that it's not CIP. It has capital in the name, but it's typically for assets valued individually less than 100,000 and have a shorter lifespan than we want to finance for 20 years, right? And the purpose of this program is to supplement the CIP and address the growing operational needs in a fiscally responsible manner. And to do that, we take a PAYGO funding approach. That 400,000 from the bridge I mentioned, that's allocated annually. And as we address needs, we identify some needs and say, hey, we can use the bridge funds for it. And it's basically an approach where we schedule out what needs to be addressed first, right? That's the intent behind the PAYGO funding, right? And in fiscal year 2025, for example, there was 300,000 for PD communication equipment. And I know that looks like over 100,000, but it was multiple communication devices, handheld radios, things of that nature, that were numerous enough to add up to that amount. Also, shade structures for parks. One of those was at the Sam's Pool, and it's a small amount, but over the years, it does add up. Year to date, we've managed to fund 2.4 million of operational needs through this outlay program, which is a significant impact. It does preserve our debt capacity, and it allows us to fund additional operating needs, such as personnel, through the general fund versus having to pay for these items. That's it for the 2025 stuff. Now we'll talk a little bit about what to expect in the next workshop, where we a little bit more forward-looking, focusing on 2026. We'll start with reviewing our policy statements and our strategic planning that went into it. We'll talk about the collective bargaining agreements and what potential impact we'll see. We'll also list the highlights or maybe the items we're most excited about next year. And of course, some additional compensation planning. And lastly, of course, we're going to have the overall proposed budget, which includes the hotel occupancy taxes. And here's our calendar of key dates. In blue, it's city actions. The green items are items that we'll be bringing to commission. So quite a lot of commission items you can see there. We're on July 1st, right? The first workshop. July 15th, we'll have the hot funding workshop. August 5th, we'll have a whole bevy of items, including the second workshop. And August 19th, we'll have the public hearing. And if all goes well, on September 2nd, we'll have something for you all to approve and adopt. This concludes our first presentation. Thank you for letting me, present to y'all. And if there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, Stephen, the whole finance department. We still have a lot to go, but I think it was a really great comprehensive recap on this. And also thank you to the CIP subcommittee. I know you're still working on our next streets and projects that will also based on data, right? So data driven is very important. We're also reviewing all the concerns that we receive through 546 Help, right? Is there something there that we're seeing there that should be addressed in this upcoming year as well? And also collective bargaining for fire, and then police is also on our radar. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm moving on to the consent agenda portion of the meeting.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review?
Yes.
Anyone have any motions?
Make a motion to approve consent agenda.
I have a first. I have a first from Commissioner Martinez and a second from Commissioner Macias. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
A public hearing, item number one. Is a public hearing and action on the first reading on ordinance number 2025-1775 to annex into the city of Brownsville boundary limits a property described as being a 4.75 acre tract of land, more or less out of a 47.51 acre tract out of a 216.04 acre allotted to Andrea de los Santos Veria, Stripe, lying south of FM 1732 and north of US Highway 281, and being out of Share 1 Espiritu Santo Grant, Cameron County, Texas, located on New Carmen Avenue, Brownsville, Texas, 78520.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Temp, and Commissioners. This request is for an annexation to incorporate 4.75 acres voluntarily into the city of Brownsville limits. The future use is for a warehousing development. About 2-3 months ago, the same developer requested an annexation of about 7 acres along New Carmen Avenue. They're adding these 4.75 acres to accommodate the development that they intend to do. So just to provide a recap, this annexation is being done all under the regulations of Chapter 43 of the Texas Local Government Code. And this is the strip of land that is being annexed into the city limits. And this is the general survey of the area. And so staff does recommend the approval to annex 4.75 acres of land into the city of Brownsville limits.
Mr. Vega,
Questions?
that 4.75 acres, whereabouts is it one more time?
It is abutting New Carmen Avenue. Directly to the south of that yellow polygon is US Highway 281. And directly to the east is the Heights of Riverbend subdivision, and even further east is Veterans High School. Yes, sir.
And what do they want to plan on building there?
It would be a commercial development, warehousing style. It would be similar to what you see along the expressway where Tesla is located. It would be that same style of business.
So, are there any other questions? Do I have a motion?
It's a public hearing.
We open the public hearing.
Sorry, I thought I was reading off of the individual consideration. Oh, okay, I see where it is. No. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here present today, to speak on this, about this subject?
I move to close public hearing.
Second.
So I have, I have a motion to close from Commissioner Cardenas and a second from Commissioner Macias. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and the public hearing is closed.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a first motion to approve from Commissioner Cardenas and a second from Commissioner Martinez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
A public hearing, item number two, is a public hearing and action on the first reading on ordinance number 2025-1776 to amend Chapter 98 of the Traffic and Vehicles, Article 4, restrictions, Section 98 through 133, established for the specific streets by establishing the speed limits at FM 550 in the city of Brownsville and dealing with related matters.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Commissioners. We're here to present on this proposal to reduce the speed limits along 550, FM 550. FM 550 is currently posted at 70 miles per hour, and the proposal is on 550 between Paredes Line Road and Baker Line Road. And we'll show you the map there. You can see on the lower right is Paredes, and it reaches all the way up to Baker Lane. So Paredes has a signal, Baker Lane does not. If you look on the northern section, you'll see this area. I can't point out, but it looks like a little square. That is Rancho Verde Elementary School. So several developments and elementary school along this frontage road area. Of course, the decision to propose the reduction of speed limit along this area is data-driven. So between 2020 and 2023, there were about 191 reported crashes, and 63 of those incidents were attributed to speed limit and speed-related factors. So in early 2024, our traffic division submitted a request to the Texas Department of Transportation to reassess the speed limit from 70 miles per hour between these two roads, Baker Lane and Paredes Line Road. This was submitted to TxDOT after they reviewed and evaluated the safety data, the roadway characteristics, the surrounding development, like the elementary school. They decided that a 60 miles per hour posted speed limit is warranted within that section. So as 550 is also a state-maintained roadway, TxDOT will oversee and fund the complete installation of the roadway signs, and which will also adhere, of course, to state standards and the Texas Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. So based on this data, we recommend approval of this because the proposed speed reduction will improve driver reaction times and have safety at the intersections and establish a better speed environment suited for the road's current conditions and usage. And we're here to answer any questions you may have regarding this.
Maribel, I had a quick question. It's in front of a school. Would this not be considered like a school zone for them to slow down, you know, how they're on roads and
It's a frontage road, so we're just.
so it
yeah.
does not apply there?
I'm not too sure about, I don't know that. Yeah, we're gonna check on that right now. Carlos, do you know that?
Yeah, the school is further up. It's not directly on the frontage road.
I see.
There's an entrance to the school. There's a drive that you go into the school, so.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone else who is present here today to speak on the issue?
I have a couple of questions, actually. Isn't this a toll road?
Frontage road's not.
So are we just talking about the frontage road, or are we
Yes,
talking
sir,
about?
just a frontage road on the north and south
Oh,
side.
so the frontage road is at 70 miles per hour?
Right.
Oh, okay, and the school doesn't have this?
So
even
the
though it's a
school
front-
apparently has its own driveway leading up, which it's not currently adjacent to the frontage road. It's set back. Let me show you. See if I can pull up this picture again.
So it's more like the in and out of the businesses on frontage. It's not, you're not talking about the toll road.
It's the frontage road to the toll road, right? So those are city.
It's frontage roads are adjacent, are between what is a private property and an expressway. So it is that road, that access road that you use to get on and off an expressway or gives you access to private property adjacent to an expressway.
And what would they want to bring the speed limit down to? 60?
Yeah, 70 to 60.
76.
Correct. So they're recommending 60 miles per hour.
Do we have a projection date on this by any chance?
A projection date for the installation?
Oh, as soon as it gets approved, we'll put in a request about a month.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here to speak on this? I know she already opened it, so.
Any other questions from the
So,
commission?
so was this brought to us by neighbors there, or, because I don't see anybody here? It was TxDOT.
It,
It was a
an
city.
evaluation from our traffic department.
So the state does a study based on accidents or issues that they have, and they'll do random studies. Depending on those studies, based on the 85th percentile, they make recommendations to adjustments to speed limits periodically. This was part of one of their assessments. As a result of their assessment, the 85th percentile dictated that the speed limit needed to be lowered for this area based on crash data.
Thank you.
TxDOT makes that recommendation.
Well, I move to close public hearing. I don't think anybody's here.
Second.
I have a motion to close from Commissioner Cardenas and a motion and a second from Commissioner Macias. All those in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and the public hearing is closed. Any other motions?
Well, I have a question if nobody's making a motion. Do we have to lower the speed limit?
Technically, as the commission, you have the choice to. This is our recommendation based on the data provided. In the event of an incident or for police enforcement, they will go back to these studies, and it makes it more challenging for police to enforce the speed limits, to actually issue a citation.
If they're going over 70?
Well, if they're going, technically it's over 60 because of the study.
Okay, so it's been changed. We just have to
No, it
post
has
it.
not been changed. It's coming to you for your adoption based on the study.
It was a study performed by TxDOT.
Correct.
Okay, so TxDOT came to us and evaluated 3 areas. I remember the letter, I received it. And they specifically said that due to crashes, that they're recommending that the city lower the speed limit in this area only from 70 to 60. And what staff is coming to you with that request from TxDOT.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
No, I value the feedback and your hard work, and I know that data for me is very important. I'm very data-driven. If I don't see the numbers or the data, then there's no backing as to the reasoning. I do see that there is an issue with high traffic. This is across the city and even more so with the frontage. On that area, I used to work at Idea Sports Park, which is right off of that frontage that I had to take. And we partnered a lot with BARC as well. So going through there, coming out of there was extremely dangerous. To this day, I get people who reach out to me, only aside from the road there, right? They reach out in reference to complaining about high traffic, and I resonate and I take all feedback into consideration, and I take it with me when making decisions, especially, for example, today. So it's a perfect example of that. I just value your feedback, and I agree that we need to do something about this. And with that being said, I would like to make a motion to approve and lower the speed from 70 to 60.
I'll second.
I've got a motion to approve the change to the speed limit from Commissioner Macias and a second from Commissioner Martinez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Items for the individual consideration. Item number 1 is the consideration and action on the first reading on ordinance number 235-2025-008 to rezone from the residential single-family R1 to the residential suburban R2 to allow a duplex development for Lot 9, Block 5, a Samano partition of the Wymore Tract, Cameron County, Texas, located at Danette Road, Brownsville, Texas, 78526, as shown in Exhibit A.
Good evening once again. This case is a request to rezone from residential single family to residential suburban R2. The proposed use is for a duplex development. To be specific, it will be a subdivision consisting, originally consisting of 33 lots to accommodate 1 duplex on each lot. The property is fronting Danette Road. And to provide some history, this item was presented at the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 1st of 2025. The recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission was to approve the rezoning from R1 to R2. By approving this rezoning, the developer would be allowed to proceed with the request of 33 duplex lots in an area of approximately 9.18 acres. When the item moved forward to City Commission on May 20th, 2025, the item was tabled based on concerns that were brought up by local residents. The residents at that time expressed concerns mostly related to strain on local resources, more specifically on road conditions and width and storm sewer facilities, drainage and flooding. As a result, the city, the Department of Engineering, Public Works, as well as the Planning and Redevelopment Department, brought together or sent out a notice to the community so that we could have a community outreach meeting to discuss these concerns. This meeting was held on June 26th, actually last week. Again, the items that were discussed were related to the road conditions and storm sewer facilities. The summary of this meeting was basically the explanation of existing watersheds and drainage of the proposed subdivision. The proposed subdivision would also be subject to drainage policies and required on-site detention. City efforts to address flooding issues. Currently, there's additional watershed being created along the Brownsville Historic Battlefield Trail, which would provide supplemental drainage to the Tradition Estates neighborhood, and would create a final outfall to a drain ditch that's to the north of the development. The proposed subdivision would also be subject to the capital recovery fee, which these funds would be used for the improvement of infrastructure within the area. And this is just a depiction that was put together in collaboration again with the Engineering and Public Works Department and also the engineer who is working on the subdivision. Just so you can get an idea, the polygon or the area in pink, that's where Tradition Estates neighborhood lies. A little bit to the southwest, you can see Estrella subdivision, which is a proposed subdivision that will be made up of duplexes. The approximate distance between both subdivisions is 1,000 feet. And both, as you can see from the image, they drain to two different watersheds. The watersheds are independent. Estrella subdivision specifically drains to the south because of the natural slope that it has. It drains directly to the Resaca that's to the south of the property. And the Tradition Estates drains to the northwest into Gardenwood subdivision, and it also drains to the south across down a road into another Resaca system that again is completely independent from the watershed into which Estrella subdivision will drain. Now, the orange line that's directly to the east of Tradition Estates subdivision, that is a new watershed that is being worked on by the Engineering and Public Works Department to alleviate that flooding that is currently occurring in this community. Eventually, once the project is complete, it will eventually drain out to the drainage that's to the north of the development. And this is an image of the original proposal that was brought by the developer. Originally, it consisted of 33 lots, which would total to a total of 66 units. Because this layout did not meet the drainage policy requirements, the Engineering and Public Works Department asked them to revise their proposal. Their proposal then, now the current layout only has 32 lots rather than 33. One of the lots was lost and will be used for on-site detention, approximately with the volume of 37,000 cubic feet. Basically, this area will capture excess runoff or excess water before it finally drains into the Resaca to the south. And this is just to show existing roadway infrastructure and conditions. It's a rural road, or a rural cross-section, an asphalt width that varies between 20 to 22 feet. And as mentioned, the capital recovery fee that will be captured from this new development will be used for projects within the area to improve the infrastructure. This is a map that was sent out along with the notice when the zoning case was originally being presented. This map was also sent out again as a second notice when we let the community know of the community outreach meeting. This is a 200-foot buffer map. There were 33 mailouts. We did receive one written opposition, again, where multiple residents or neighbors of the area expressed their concerns related to the drainage and the flooding. This is a zoning map, and as you can see, what predominates in the area is residential single family. There is residential suburban to the south. And any questions?
Mr. Vega, so you only got one opposition back?
Well, one letter basically from the entire community.
So that's one letter speaking for everybody, right?
Right.
Okay. The reason why I ask is I've spoken to numerous, and I'm still getting text messages. Their main concern is the drainage, obviously, and Dennett Road. I'm all about growth. I'm all about, you know, building, because, I mean, we need more housing here. We need more houses. And I'm all about, you know, building and getting bigger. But do we have a plan, or do we have a date, more or less, when Dennett Road will be under construction or changed out?
At this time, we do not have that. It is being considered as part of our CIP for the following 5 years. Right now, we already have a 5-year roadway CIP in place. Dennett and Stillman Road are roads that they've reached out to us frequently, and we will be reviewing those as part of the following 5-year CIP plan.
So that would be after 2030?
At this time, yes.
I do have a question, Martin. In terms of density, that road not only carries existing neighborhoods, new neighborhoods, but it also has a very big business, the corner where it comes in and out. I think it's a more public works question, but what's the traffic capacity for Dennett that is there a number that we could put on that?
Off the top of my head, I would not be able to tell you, but we can definitely get that for you if needed.
I would appreciate that, yes, sir. Thank you.
The other concern is, you know, that Dennett Road, I mean, we all can say it, it's horrible. I mean, it really is. My concern also is if we're going to do construction there to build these homes with all these cement trucks and trucks that loads in dirt or, you know, other bricks to construct those duplexes, that road's only gonna get worse. You know, it is what it is. And I'm all about growth, but I was on that street today because they called me saying it was flooding and stuff like that, so I went out there. And it's bad. I don't know if 5 years, you know, and I understand how other streets in the city need to be fixed, but 5 years for that street, I think is people are gonna be complaining. But is there anything else we can do to alleviate this problem? And, you know, pretty much guarantee, I mean, we can't guarantee that Tradition Estates and Achievement are not gonna flood anymore, because right now, the whole city is flooding. Even my mom's neighborhood is flooding. So I just tell these people, these citizens, you know, be patient. Our city is out there working right now. But I don't know how many cars or buses go down Dennett Road a day. I don't know. But 5 years, I mean, that's a little long.
Yeah, Commissioner, and we would say that there is a current drainage project that we have created in-house. We have run into a permitting issue with Texas Gas Service, so I want that to be clear. We have citywide over 100 billion worth of roads, and if we look at our capital, we look at our data, there are many roads that need improvement. However, the city does prioritize that based on need, traffic, you know, flooding and all those concerns, but we don't have enough even to bond for all that need that we have. So through the capital improvement program, we prioritize those roads like Old Highway 77 is a perfect example because we're still paying for it, right? And so we understand there's a great need. The capital recovery fee that we're barely collecting on, you all gave a year of grace period to be able to prepare development for that small percentage of impact fee is barely starting to be collected now. And so what that will help is the pot. It'll help create that pot that'll take time to develop. But you're right, there's a lot of need. There's a lot of need throughout the community. The capital improvement program was developed, and like I said, if we can accelerate and get more grants, we'll accelerate that capital improvement program. But when we don't have the grants, then we have to wait until we can afford it. And so that's kind of where we are with the prioritization of that. But we can probably do some sort of traffic analysis. Maybe that's what we were saying, to collect more data on the specific road. And then the impact of that project, if that's something we want to do. But there's a lot of need, I understand, but you know, we can probably do that.
I totally agree with you, Ms. Ramirez. I totally agree with you. And with all due respect, the citizens voted for me to voice their opinion. And I think I would do this service to the citizens in this area if I didn't bring it up. And that's something I promised on, that's something I ran on, and that's something personal to me, that I come out here and be the voice for them. And let me get it, I mean, very clear. I'm not against this neighborhood. I'm for it. But at the same time, they want me to speak up for them, and that's, at the end of the day, all I'm doing. And I want to be their voice. And if we can do an analysis, and I know Mr. Garcia, you know, 5 years, I mean, if it's 5 years, if that's what it's going to be, you know, it is what it is. And I agree and I understand there's other streets in front of this one, but at the end of the day, I just want to, you know, tell their concerns. And if I just sit here and be quiet, then I'm out in 4 years. You know what I mean? But I just want to make sure that their voice is heard, that it's something serious. You know, and like I said, I'm not against it, I'm for it, but let's not forget the citizens in that area. And there's a lot of new subdivisions going up, so let's just not forget them.
Absolutely.
Martin, if this were to be denied, when could they apply again for a duplex or multifamily development?
So as per the UDC, they would have a 1 year, let's say, moratorium on their request. After 1 year passes, that's when they would be able to apply for the exact same request again.
I have a question for the commissioners. So is it the flooding or is it the road? Which is, but what is the issue? I mean, we're being told that the flooding, there is no flooding to traditional estates because it drains down, not up. It would have to drain the other way for it to be an issue for traditional estates. Is that correct, Mr.
Correct.
Garcia?
Correct.
And, I mean, so I don't see the flooding, this wouldn't be a flooding issue. And if we're talking about 32 duplexes, I mean, this is 60 cars.
My concern, Commissioner, is when we're considering this, we're adding more impact to this road, and the traffic study hasn't been made yet. When we're trying to make a decision on adding additional impact, I don't feel comfortable it being 5 years minimum out. When we consider these kinds of things, we need to also consider, the density of this area, that it continues to grow, and have adequate infrastructure if we're going to be approving these additional.
And you mentioned a business on the corner, isn't that on Paredes? I mean,
Yeah.
it's on Paredes, so. I mean, well, I think that's exactly what he was speaking about, which is on Paredes. All right, so, well, you guys call.
Now, I want to make it clear. I'm for the neighborhood, but I mean, if like Mr. Commissioner Martinez says, if we're less than 5 years out, by the time they start construction, you're probably talking another year maybe, or when they start getting permits and stuff like that. Let's just not forget about that road. That's all I want to say.
Any other questions or comments? There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
I do have a question for Commissioner Martinez, and maybe Commissioner De Leon, who are a little more against it. I haven't driven there, in a while, but my question is, what if you all get the study done before the second reading? That way we don't punish someone a year for a property that they're trying to build. Would that be something that you all would entertain?
I would be open to that, yes.
Would you be open to that, Commissioner De Leon?
Yeah, yes.
Could we do that? Can
I
we?
don't know how long the study will take because we want to make sure it's a professional study from a transportation engineer. So I would defer to staff.
And-
Maybe it needs to be for at least
1
30
month?
days.
So can we push it for a month? So from this meeting to next meeting, I guess? Would that
Yeah.
work?
I think 1 month to table the item would give sufficient time to the applicant to submit a traffic study for his subdivision.
Okay, so would you recommend we just
August 5th?
table
August 5th.
Table on the first reading, maybe as
Yes.
well? That would be more comfortable. All right, well, I move to table.
Can we include in your motion to August 5th?
I move to table for 1 month.
To August 5th?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, to August 5th? Could you add?
Oh, to August 5th.
Okay, thank you.
And request the traffic
I've got
study,
him.
because we can't request that by ordinance. It's not required.
And if you can include,
Request the traffic.
the request of traffic study.
To request a traffic study. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will
Just
second.
just to clarify, Martin, real quick, you said it's 32? So does that mean it's 64 living units?
Correct.
So 64 living units, okay, thank you. So- And we can assume that 2 vehicles per the 64. Okay, thank you so much, I just wanted to clarify.
So I have a
Second,
motion
Commissioner
to,
Just one second. One last thing. The people from, and Commissioner Cardenas made a excellent comment. I guess the people, the citizens from Tradition and Achievement Estates, or the Achievement Estates neighborhood, they're worried about the water from this new duplex going into theirs. And he made a good comment. It's going to be going south. So for the people in Tradition Estates, that's not going to be an issue because of that flooding. So I want to make that clear that it's not going to happen. And I'm glad Commissioner Cardenas brought that up. So Other than that, yeah.
Yes, that's correct, sir.
It's correct. So-
It drains from, to the south,
Yeah.
away from Tradition Estates.
Yes, sir. So I hope anybody from, if Tradition Estates is listening, that the water from that neighborhood is going to go south, and then that other one will be pumped out as far as the work that's being done by the city, which I drove out there today, and it looked like it was working. So hopefully we don't have any problems.
I just want to clarify, the motion that we have right now, it's to table the item to August 5th, but there needs to be a traffic study done. And if I understood Mr. Garcia correctly, it has to be the landowner who pays for it.
Correct.
So in that time, in the 1 month time, the traffic study would have to be done by the landowner.
Correct.
And
Perfect.
my
Thank you
understanding
so
is that was
much.
the motion, and we
And
just
I'm
need
gonna
a
go ahead and
second.
second.
A second.
I'll second.
So I have a motion to do all that, to table until August 5th and have the landowner pay for it and conduct a traffic study in the area. Did I say table to August 5th?
Correct.
So I have a first from Commissioner Cardenas and a second from Commissioner Macias.
Do you know
Just
what
to
that
clarify,
costs?
it'll be a traffic study for his subdivision, not for
Oh,
the area, it's for his
For his-
subdivision.
Do we know what that cost?
We don't do those studies for like a subdivision regularly. That's not something we typically do.
Well, thank you so much for the information and for all the hard work that you do and for the improvements of the drainage for Tradition Estates. I passed by it, it's wonderful. We're very excited. I have friends that live in the area, and thank you guys so much for pushing forth on that. It's a very much needed improvement, and it's improving their quality of life, so thank you.
We have a first and a second.
Yes, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries and the item is tabled until the August 5th.
Item number 2 is the consideration and action to enter into a 10-year contract with Annex Enterprise, Inc. for 159 body cameras, 159 TASER units and hardware accessories, 10 drones with the docking stations and related equipment. The contract also provides for the FUSIS Real-Time Crime Center AI software. The agreement also includes all hardware, software, and system upgrades throughout the 10-year contract term at a cost of $12,574,049.53, with the first payment of a year one installment of $990,000 as budgeted.
Mayor and City Commission, Mayor Pro Tem, this agenda item seeks approval of a 10-year contract with Axon Enterprise for the Brownsville Police Department. The proposed contract includes selected hardware, software applications, unlimited cloud storage, and access to all future AI software products released during the life of the contract. Founded in 1993, Axon is the largest manufacturer of body cameras in the United States. A member of the S&P 500, Axon holds a market capitalization of $63 billion as of today. Their product line includes body-worn cameras, in-car video systems, and digital evidence management platforms. Recently, Axon introduced the Axon Air drone, specifically engineered for law enforcement. This drone offers advanced imaging capabilities for aerial surveillance, search and rescue, and incident response. Axon's technology is currently utilized by over 18,000 law enforcement agencies. The Brownsville Police Department has partnered with Axon for the past 10 years, beginning with the implementation of body-worn cameras. In 2019, we added tasers to the force. The deployment of these less lethal devices has significantly reduced injuries among both officers and suspects during confrontations, offering a safer alternative to other types of force. 3 years ago, we integrated the Fusus platform, an advanced software application that connects live feeds from public and private cameras, compatible with body cameras, drones, smartphones, and residential security systems. Fusus aggregates this data to our real-time crime center and delivers intelligence to our officers in the field. Today, more than 700 cameras across the city are registered with this system. As part of the new contract, we will acquire 10 Axon Skydio drones. These drones enhance our responders' capabilities with autonomous flight, obstacle avoidance, high-resolution imaging, and real-time video streaming. Strategically deployed, these drones will allow police, fire, and EMS to gain immediate aerial awareness. More than 60% of the calls will be able to be reached by a drone in under 3 minutes, enabling quicker assessments and smarter resource deployment. The 10 drones are currently proposed to be located at fire stations 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. Locations strategically selected to maximize citywide coverage. These stations align with high call volume areas, ensuring 60% of the calls for service and receive a drone support in under 3 minutes. One of the key features we'll be implementing at our department is Draft One. This software application integrates with the officer's body camera, allowing them to complete reports while on a call for service, thereby streamlining the report writing process. Currently, police officers spend 30 minutes to several hours just completing reports, which significantly impacts their ability to engage in other crucial tasks such as responding to calls, patrolling, and community engagement. By enabling these officers to return to the streets more quickly, it will effectively act as a force multiplier, enhancing our overall presence and responsiveness in the community. We anticipate that the implementation of this software will drastically improve the efficiency of our department.
Can I ask a question, if I may interrupt? Would those drones be hovering at all times already from those, or they would be deployed?
They'd actually be deployed as per calls for service.
Okay.
Emergency calls for service, EMS may call them out, fire may call them out, police, and stuff like that.
They do have an automated feature. They function as robots. And so we do have one right now on a beta display, if you would, and we actually have a program to do its own automated flights at certain times of the day. We're
Oh, so
collecting
it does
data.
like reconnaissance work right now?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're running it right now. We have one bird out right now, and it's fantastic. The proposed contract 10-year term includes body-worn cameras, taser units, uses software platform, 10 Axon drones, access to all future software innovations released during the contract period, and unlimited cloud data storage. We respectfully request your support and approval for this agenda item to continue modernizing and enhancing public safety services for our community. I would like to introduce Mr. Matt Applebaum, a representative from Axon, who is here to address any questions regarding the technology behind the systems and other aspects of the contract. Matt?
How's everyone doing today? I appreciate, first of all, the partnership with the City of Brownsville over the last 10 years. Working with Chief, with Commander Pascal and the team. The point of this program is really, with the city expanding so much, how do we bring you guys up to the 21st century and prepare you to be future-proofed as technology keeps growing? So very excited to continue that partnership for the next 10 years and happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
Thank you, Matt. 180-second response is pretty impressive, I must say. Are there any other major cities in the state that already has these kinds of devices?
Yeah, so as far as the drones themselves, or?
The drones.
Yeah, so the drone is being released this year, so everyone is going through the implementation of that right now. So there are plenty of cities that have done betas. So Amarillo Police Department up in the Panhandle is an example of that. There's going to be a lot more that are joining on this year. The Skydio X10 dock, this new dock is brand new, but they've had previous docks in the past, so it's the newest iteration.
Thank you.
So who would deploy the drone? Like once once they.
A typical scenario would be, we'd have a major call for service or a call for service. It would go through dispatch. Dispatch would actually alert to the system to go ahead and send the drone out from the location.
Oh, do you need someone to be programming it to deploy or?
Matt, you want to go ahead and talk about it?
Yeah, so if there's a call for service, that would essentially drop a pin onto the map, at which point a pilot would be able to click fly to this location and the drone would fly there autonomously based off of path that has been predetermined. And then once that drone does show up on scene, there would be a pilot to be able to control that drone and be able to essentially give a view and be able to maneuver it as needed for that situation.
So with our new cameras that'll be coming in as an upgrade included in the package, it'll actually have a drone to call or to camera feature. So the officer will be able to actually ask or request the drone, the automated drone, to come to his scene by the push of a button on his camera as well.
Oh, so the drone will get there at the same time or after the police officer?
Depending on the situation, so it can be used in varied ways, right? So we will be able to have it live within our dispatch center. They'll be able to live view if you would. They can send it to scenes. If we get a call, a customary call that we get and receive often is a call of a major accident. We get varied calls from citizens. Some will tell us that it's drastic and others will tell us that, it's just a little fender bender. And so it'll save us time with that type of a response time to be able to deploy the automated drone to the scene and beat the officers, if you would, if there's none in the area, to actually see if the accident, the level of severity of the accident, if you would. So that would save us time and resources. It would not only save resources, manpower, but it will also save maintenance on vehicles and things of that sort. So, I mean, the savings and what it'll help us do into the future, there's a lot of features to the benefit, if you would. Like I said, manpower, wear and tear on vehicles, gas, and everything else. And it just helps us be able to operate, as Mr. Applebaum put, at a 21st century type of setting.
So I'm just wondering though, if you're gonna need someone, okay, so like besides the 911 dispatch to operate the drone and then communicate with the actual police officer and the 911 dispatch.
So we currently have 8 fully certified drone operators, and we will have more. We don't have to add any staff or personnel because they are actually officers, and we can also have some of our operators become drone operators, if you would, from our dispatch center.
I went to visit one of our bars probably about a week ago on Pablo Quisel, and I really wish you commissioners go out with the Brownsville PD, and I was witness to see that drone go up, and it's pretty impressive on how fast it went up. And I was looking at it on their screen in real time, and I was impressed. And I was shocked on how fast it got up. But if you all have a chance, during the day or at night, go out there with the Brownsville PD, and it's really very impressive.
And then the only other question or concern I would have, would there be any possible for like miscommunication or interference? Because you're having, say, 911, the police officer, and then a drone operator, and all things are happening at the same time.
As far as piloting of the drones or just communication?
And then communication between the three, because now you're adding a third party to like the discussion.
Yeah, so I can let the police department talk about their current communications between them and the fire department. With that being said, the combination of both radar being provided as a part of this contract to help deconflict airspace. So that way, if there's any other objects that would be up in the sky, it can essentially make sure that that drone isn't going to interfere with them. along with the integration into the Fusus platform that's leveraged today to provide real-time awareness of what's going on so that they can see everything that's going on as they communicate back and forth. So the goal is to provide as many points of information and as visuals as possible so that that communication doesn't necessarily have to add in some of those blanks, but people can see those as well to speed up that collaboration.
Any other questions?
Yes, we currently have one, right?
That's correct. Yes.
And we want to get some more,
Ten.
correct?
We got one.
So we
Alone.
have one on beta. The company was impressed with a border city of you Wood being up at their conference. So within a week of our return, we actually had engineers on the ground that flew in from California. So that's actually a beta. And so we will be purchasing 10 of our own, of course, if you all allow us.
That'll give us a fleet of 11.
Have you thought of the locations you want to put them at?
Yeah, the map's on here.
Yeah, the map. Okay, you have them then.
Yeah, the map's
Okay.
on here.
Yes, so we go through a hotspot analysis and then we go ahead and pick our locations from there.
Chief, I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Earlier today, you said it includes now.
It includes what?
It includes now, you said that phrase. I'm talking about like, the unlimited, the upgrades automatically. So every year now, or every 2 years, they'll be sending us the new upgraded
Absolutely. And we're covered for the 10 years.
in addition to unlimited
Yes, sir.
storage as well.
Yes.
So in terms of the contract, my last question, I'm sorry. I'm only asking questions because it is a big investment. We all see the value in it. I see the value in it, I would say, but it's a 10-year, the way we were able to get that discount that I saw on the screen earlier right now was through that 10-year agreement, correct?
So it's a combination of the 10-year, the collaboration with the city throughout the past 10 years, where you guys are based along the border to strategically help you guys, because it's more than just anywhere's local law enforcement. This really is also providing additional border security. And then also just a bundling because all of these components of the program come together. So that bundling also adds in additional discounts.
Very good, thank you.
And so just to clarify, this is a 10-year contract for 159 body cameras, 159 TASER units and hardware accessories, and 10 drones with docking stations and related equipment. I thank you for the discount. We try to save as much as we can, every aspect, to ensure that every penny is going towards the needs of our community. And I'm all for officer safety. I want to ensure that our officers get home safely to their families, as it's a sacrifice every day to protect our community. And secondly, I want to ensure the safety of our community. And so if by these resources and us agreeing to this is going to improve the quality of safety within my community, then I'm all for it.
Move to approve.
Second.
So I've got a motion to approve from Commissioner Cardenas and a second from Commissioner Macias. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Martinez and a second from Linda Macias to go into executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're now executive session.
Thank you. Item number 1 is the closed session pursuant to the Texas Government Code, sections 551.071 and .072, related to the project for the food bank. Item 2 is the closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, sections 551.071 and 551.076, related to project route. The city commissions will enter into executive session at 7:25. Yes. Mayor Pro Tem, may we reconvene into open session?
Yes, sorry.
The city commission will the city commission will reconvene into open session at 8 PM. Is there any possible action?
Yes.
Item number 1 is the consideration and action, if any, related to the project for the food bank.
Yes, I'll move to allow the city manager and city attorney's office to negotiate and finalize the license agreement with Food Bank for city manager's signature.
Second.
I have a first from Commissioner Martinez and a second from Commissioner Macias to direct the city manager in conjunction with the city attorney to negotiate an agreement related to the project for the food bank. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a
Adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.
The time is 8:01.
Bye, John. See you next time.